Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Meadow Green Farm. So today we are working on seeding our pastures. Now, I've talked a little bit about this in previous videos about what we want to put on these pastures. What I've picked up is a 50-pound bag of fescue and orchard grass mix. We've also picked up, as you can see right behind me, a nice little tow behind seed spreader. I've got the seed spreader all hooked up to the four-wheeler, and we bought this at Lowe's. It was just a couple $100s, and the reason that we chose this model was pretty simple. I want to seed our pastures with the four-wheeler or with a zero-turn or something that's very lightweight. I cannot drive on these pastures right now in this time of the season with the tractor, and if I do, it's going to get very ruddy and very muddy because down here in East Tennessee, the early spring and the winter months is our wet months. So ground is very saturated. I don't want to go ahead and make a ton of ruts and chew everything up, so we're going to try and do everything on the four-wheeler. I think it's going to work out just fine. We're going to give this a little test shot. Got my bag of orchard grass and fescue all loaded up to carry with me as I go. I'm not sure how fast we're going to go through this stuff. I am going to begin on feed rate number 4. I've not used this spreader, so I'm not sure where to start on this, but feed rate 4 seems to give us a nice little slot feed the seed down through. I might have to open it up, but the cool thing about this machine is it's propelled by the axle down here on the tires, and as that's turning, this spring pin right here is actually turning and kind of mixing up the seed and helping it feed down through the slot. So I've never used one of these before. It should be pretty interesting. We're going to try and seed this pasture right here. It's about 3 acres, about 3.5 acres, somewhere in there. I'm not quite sure of the size, but we have 50 pounds, which should be plenty of grass to seed this pasture. And as you can see, it's been pretty chewed up right here since we moved into the property. And there are some bare spots around here, but the grass is starting to come back. Most of what we have in this pasture is going to be fescue, as you can see right here, with a bunch of clover mixed in and some garlic here and there. That's all that's in this pasture. Now, early spring, what we tend to have right down through this swath is basically a bunch of jewelweed or hairy vetch, whichever one you want to call it. And we get early spring forage like hop clover and white clover and stuff like that. So I want to get the orchard grass on here. That way we have a grass growing in the hotter months, and then the fescue will probably germinate, but it will really grow better in the fall months once it cools down a little bit. We're going to tackle this pasture in preparation for getting our fence lines up, and eventually we'll come back and do this pasture over here. It's quite a bit bigger, but focus right here. This is the pasture. We want to get this seeded, get it going. That way it can germinate, grow for a year while we get the fence lines up before we get our cattle. If you see me running around like a chicken without a head, well, that's because that's my life on a farm. I work full time. I have very minimal time during the week to get things done around here, but tomorrow it's supposed to rain, and then the day after it's supposed to rain. It's about 65 to 70 degrees right now, which means it's perfect weather for germinating seeds. Let's get the seed loaded up. We've used fescue from this farm store before and had extremely good luck with it germinating. It seems to germinate in drought, whether it's hot or cold. So this seed I have a pretty good high confidence in. I think it's going to do pretty well. The first 2 passes I had this set on 8, and it looked like it was going a little too heavy. So I had it on 4, we moved it up to 8. Now it's back to 7. And I think we found the sweet spot. We've gone through about 1/5 to 1/4 of this seed. So I think the feed rate is pretty good now. I think there's nothing left to do but leave it right at this rate. Go ahead and finish spreading the seed and take you along for a ride. Nice thing is I can kind of see my tire tracks in the field, so I know where I've been. Right now we're traveling about 4 miles an hour. Oh, I love this time of year where it's finally, the days are getting longer and it just seems like everything's come back to life. The birds are out, the trees are all flowering. It's just absolutely beautiful to be outside again. You spend all winter long just planning everything, and then all of a sudden it's just a light switch flicks, everything gets turned on, and you got to be outside every waking second. So as you can tell right here, like I said before, the sun's going down, but you know, it's 68, 70 degrees out. It's perfect weather for getting out and throwing down the seed and getting to work. We're trying to front load all of our work this year in the springtime, get all of our meat chickens raised and butchered and into the freezer. Come June, we should be on our last batch of meat chickens, and my hope is we can focus more on the garden, or I can focus more on the garden and helping Gabrielle out with the garden this summer than I did last year, because I was so focused on the pigs and everything else with the infrastructure and everything else that she was pretty much all alone in the garden. So I don't want to do that again this year. We're going to try and help her out by getting everything done a little bit earlier this year. So chickens are coming in, seeds are going in the ground, seeds are going down in the pasture, we're building fence lines. There's a lot going on. I think I finally honed in on the feed rate, so I have it at 7 right now, and as you can see by the spread on these seeds, I got good coverage. This is right where I want to be. It's not too thick, not too thin. There's a lot of mixed information out there, or mixed opinions about overseeding, which is what I'm doing. So there's frost seeding, where you do this in the fall, then you hope the frost stratifies the seeds and then they germinate in the spring. This is springtime overseeding. So we're gonna try it. I got the bag of orchard grass and fescue at a good price. So I figure, you know what, for the price, we'll try this. This pasture really needs it. If it doesn't work, oh well. Next option to this is going to be to drill seed, and we can get a drill seeder for $60 for the weekend down at the co-op, the local co-op right here in town. So if this doesn't work, I probably will have to do this with a tractor and just rent the drill seeder and give that a shot. That should work. That's kind of like a foolproof method of seeding these pastures. Is what most people do. But with the way that we're setting up our fence lines with paddocks and when I have to seed, I just want to try this first and see how it works. So I don't know, cross the fingers, hope it works. That's kind of what our farm has been like so far, is just trial and error and see what works for us and see what doesn't work, I guess. So as you can see here, at one point, this field probably was covered in fescue because we have a strip of it right here. This is kind of compacted right down through here. But as we get over into this section, you get back to the fescue. So I'm actually only going to be seeding to about right here if I can. I may drive over that a little bit and kind of lightly top seed it. One of the reasons why I think this is actually going to work for us is if you look at the topsoil in our field, you pull back the thatch, our topsoil is very moist, very dark, it's very organic. So I think what we're going to do is when we lay down the seed and it rains tomorrow, that'll kind of push all the seed down, get to that organic material. And I think this stuff is going to germinate really good. what I'm going to try and do is swing up here on this pass, drive this old fence line. This is where we took out the fence line last year. See if we can put down some seed right here. We're bumpy. I don't want to load this up all the way to the top. On my first pass, I did that. And what was happening is this was bouncing, the seed was going right out the back. So mental note, if you buy one of these, don't fill it up all the way because it is bumpy. It does bounce around and you're going to lose some seed. Well, it's been about 5 days since we laid down all the seed and no activity quite yet, but I didn't really expect anything at this point. I expect it to take about 2 weeks for these seeds to germinate and really start taking off. So we'll come back up here in about 2 weeks and check in on everything and we'll give you an update. The doves, however, have been working overtime to haul off all my seed, but I think they got their work cut out for them. I do have a long list of chores I got to get to. I'm very far behind, or at least I feel like I'm far behind. So I'm going to get working on that list. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button for us. It does help us out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to watch our homestead grow, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We would love to have you along. But until next time, we hope you have a great day.